company leading Australia's sleep disorder market by monitoring our napping patterns is Compumedics. The biotech is also leveraging its existing technology to expand into a number of related market sectors, both here and overseas. It was recently awarded a $1 million contract to supply its clinical monitoring system to the neurology department at Yale University. It's all part of Compumedics' plan to tap into the highly lucrative neurology market, which is twice the size of its core sleep diagnostic business. For more, Executive Chairman and CEO of Compumedics, Dr. David Burton, joins me now in the studio. And Dr. Burton, thanks so much for your time this evening. The company, as we mentioned, leads the sleep diagnostic market here in Australia with a market share of approximately 80%. So you've almost really got the monopoly over the market. Just how big is the market here at home?
Well, the Australian market, as with most markets, is relatively small, but our major business, in fact 90% of our business is export. And the world market for sleep devices is in the order of $5 billion. We're currently also #1 in premier equipment for China, which is our major growth market, experiencing year on year for us in our key 3 sectors at the moment, which is neurology and sleep, over 30% growth. So that's a big growth story because they're fairly latent in some of their more sophisticated monitoring, and that's our sector. So we've got quite an exciting story there. US, we're the fastest growing neurology company, in particular long-term monitoring, and we'd be #3 in our core sleep business.
I will talk a little bit more about the neurology, but right now your international business, as you mentioned, is obviously growing, especially in that US market, which you say is the largest medical device market out there. What strategies do you have in place to really garner your place as a key player there?
Look, interestingly, our strategy on the long-term monitoring EEG market, it started in 2002 when we acquisitioned a world leader in neurology research equipment. And they had a boutique market in the order of probably only a total market of 15-20 million, but they service the world leaders in neurology. And our strategy was that if we could acquisition that company, which we did, then we could couple that equipment to the clinical domain, which is a market which is $250 million. Now, this is the first year when we go into our full launch, but the positioning of that has been occurring over 8 years. For example, we have systems in Yale University, Harvard University, Stanford. We have systems in Albert Einstein medical centres. So all of these systems have been installed, and that's what positioned us now to win some of these more recent contracts. So it's been a long time coming. It's not overnight, but this is the first year, 2012, when we've got a full commercial launch. So that's quite exciting for the company.
The company's also looking to tap the Chinese market. No surprises there. I mean, it's a growing market, and our proximity, of course, to China is a lucky one for us. What sort of growth would this offer the company if successful? Well,
look, it's interesting when you mention TAP. TAP is the term in the sense of the growth now, but actually we've been a long play, 15 years, to establish installations, for example, in China. We have Hong Kong, Shanghai, Shenzhen and Beijing, and these are all universities, the finest universities. So once again, we've been seeding our reference centres, but now the growth's occurring. We're on the spot. The Shanghai Institute estimated that the growth in China, or in fact 38% of the Chinese population are expected to have sleep disorders. So our core business is sleep disorder monitoring. That's a fairly major input for the market. And being in the Asia-Pacific region, these are unique factors that put us in that #1 box seat.
I mean, it's a huge population there. What sort of percentage of people in China have this sleep disorder as well?
Well, once again, China's more of a growth story, and it's got a smaller base. So USA is more the established market, as is with Germany, for example. But in terms of the growth, that's what we're seeing come out of China. Even in neurology, based on US figures, some 10% of the population will suffer a seizure in their lifetime. And we monitor in our epilepsy centres for seizures. So you can imagine in China, it's a phenomenal market. But once again, it's a relatively small baseline, but high growth. Similarly in sleep disorders, 1 in 5 people are reported to have sleep disordered breathing. And the comorbidities of sleep disordered breathing are even more boggling. For example, the majority of diabetes sufferers, congestive heart failure sufferers, hypertension, all also have sleep disordered breathing. So it's a big market, and we spent a long time positioning ourselves, and that's the important factor with China.
all of your products developed, designed, manufactured and marketed from your Melbourne headquarters.
That's right.
We've seen so many other domestic companies and manufacturers in particular come under pressure lately. Will you choose to shift your manufacturing offshore to save money?
Well, to be honest, we've been slowly merging with the Asia region more and more with manufacturing. And as these sort of crippling foreign exchange and various other policies hammer manufacturers locally, then you're going to obviously see more and more manufacture just to survive. And that's one of those factors that we don't get to choose. For example, most manufacturers have lost 30% based on foreign exchange in their competitiveness in the Australian dollar.
Where does your percentage of loss sit?
Well, over 2 to 3 years, we would have shifted about 30%. But fortunately, we've been adapting by hedging our bets in the sense of developing a lot of our manufacturing base in the Asia region. So there has been some planning on this, but of course no one really expected in the last year or so such a phenomenal shift. And that's a great pressure to all manufacturers, but the ones that are prepared, and in medicine, of course, you have to be prepared. Yeah,
absolutely. As an extension to your diagnostics business, the company also has developed the latest state-of-the-art treatment device, which is awaiting US FDA approval. Explain to us what this is and why the strategy shift or the shift in focus.
Right. Well, it's interesting. We've got two core strategies with the company. The first one I mentioned, we bought the world's leading neurology research group. We coupled it with our clinical domain. That's enabled us to double our sales force growth now, because that market for the EEG is $250 million. Now, similarly, in the sleep market, we realised the diagnostic business is 1/10 of the sleep device business. The sleep treatment devices, phenomenal market, that's billions of dollars. But there was no way we could enter that market with a lot of the large giant companies, the likes of Philips, who have just bought Respironics, the ResMeds, the smaller players but sort of moving up a little bit is the Fisher & Paykel's and those sort of companies. So our strategy was quite simple. We adopted our 20 years of sleep diagnostic expertise. We patented, invented a new device which is designed to be more sleep efficient. We've signed contracts in Europe with the world leading group and professors who have now conducted preliminary studies, and we're entering this from the smart end of the devices designed to treat the sleep disordered breathing but give you better sleep. Now that's a unique position, so we're meeting head on head with these large gigantic companies. We've got a unique product and we've already signed up contracts for millions of dollars in Europe. But interestingly enough, we'll likely submit our FDA application in the very coming period. So we expect to get FDA in not too distant future. So that's a big milestone for the company. So 2012 is probably one of our major years.
You mentioned ResMed in there as one of the big players. You have a strong emphasis, obviously, on research and development, and you are aiming to take on ResMed in this space, who do have quite the stronghold on that right now. How successful do you think the company will be in actually securing market share from such a large player? I mean, how are you actually going to go about doing it?
Well, actually, we're not looking at taking them on head. Like most technologies across the world and in medicine, you'll probably see that the companies that really emerge in the later developed markets have a differentiator, easy interface like with iPhone, or smarter devices like a lot of our more consumable devices. And our strategy was simply, if we could work on the intelligence of the device, and in particular that which we do better than anyone in the world, which is automatic sleep staging without any more invasion or cost, then we could put our smarts into the algorithm and give a better sleep. So if we can treat people with a better sleep, why wouldn't you buy a sleep treatment device that's got that superior positioning? And that was our strategy. Now, we have USA patents. We have the #1 clinic in the world that study sleep disordered treatment, who have now signed up and are validating our device, and the initial feedback is very positive. So we're positioned for the intellectual property, the patents, and that unique niche. That's why we're not going head on head.
Well, I wish you every success this financial year. It sounds like a big one.
Thank you.
Executive Chairman and CEO of Compumedics, Dr. David Burton, joining us there. Well, that is Summer Money for this Wednesday evening, but do join us again tomorrow for another great show. Thanks so much for your company. Good night.
What makes